Hi all, I have an absolutely amazing Armageddon game to show you today. Vishy Anand against Ding Liren. So this is on a fast time limit. White has 10 minutes to black 7 with a 3-second increment from from move 61. In case of a draw, the player with the black pieces gets the full point. So they drew their main classical game. The time limit for that was 2 hours with a 10-second increment, only after move 40. So no draw offers allowed in the classical game until move 30. So there's a kind of fighting spirit around the whole of the Norway chess tournament to try and get a decisive result one way or the other. So in the main classical game, they actually followed this exact opening for a bit. It's not mandatory, I believe, to follow, but Vishy Anand against Ding Liren. So here, the moves also echo for the main classical game up to a point. So let's have a look. Bishop c4, bishop c5, white castles, knight f6, d3, black castles, c3, d6, rook e1. Looks pretty standard so far. a5, h3, h6, knight bd2, bishop e6. And you might think this is a little bit curious here, that white controls the d5 square right now with the bishop on c4 and wants to move it, but it is kind of theoretical. Bishop b5. With that pawn committed, there's no kicking of the bishop that easily. It occupies a nice square. It can maybe come back into white's position via a4. And we have another curious move, but it's theory, queen b8. And this was all in the main classical game as well. Knight f1, queen a7, so hitting f2. So there are various ways of dealing with this. Vishy chooses queen d2. In the main classical game, which was over 100 moves ending in a draw, Vishy had played d4. Pretty complex stuff as well, that game. So queen d2, you might think, isn't this a little bit odd looking? It blocks in the bishop. Okay, it protects f2. Aren't there other ways to do this? Bishop e3 has been seen in a high-level classical game before. Karyakin against Fiddler, St. Petersburg 2018. That ended in a win for Sergei Karyakin. So bishop e3 seems, you might argue, a little bit more natural in a way. So queen d2 anyway, let's go with this. We see rook ad8, knight g3, knight e7. And here, after the knight kind of neglects d4 a bit, Vishy does venture d4 in this position. So with the pawn on a5, there actually does seem to be a little tactic available on ed, cd, bishop b4, potentially. But I guess white could play knight takes d4 and enjoy the position after that. It looks pretty good. So, ed, knight takes d4 perhaps. But anyway, here, bishop b6 was played. We see now the queen moving to c2. So that's interesting. Unblocking the bishop. Knight g6, and the bishop comes to support the d4 square. So both of these squares are being well supported. There is a lot of central concerns by white being addressed here, each move. But there seems to be a little bit of switching around as well of pieces, like the bishop moving from c4 to b5, the queen moving from d2 to c2. Oh, that's quite curious so far. c6, we have the bishop going to d3, rook fe8, and again this looks like is Vishy moving the queen too much? Queen d2, it does set up this crude looking battery, which is one of my favourites in bullet chess to win games as quickly as possible. But okay, the time limit is kind of more that style. It's not a classical time limit, so this kind of thing might actually work more successfully on the faster time controls. It looks as though, isn't it asking for trouble, because the rooks are kind of classically placed in the center here. Doesn't black just want to play d5 and kind of laugh at white's attack here? Because it looks as though black's got really quite a harmonious position in certain respects. But the caveman kind of perspective might sort of give the idea, well, hold on, the queen's out here. It's not necessarily Siberia. It is influencing the center, but it's far away from the king. There is some distance from the king. So even though white the rook hasn't been used yet. What about if white gave it a bash with this hack attack to sacrifice the bishop on h6? Wouldn't that be quite fun, whatever happened? Just before we get into it, if king h7, this does go on to this dangerous diagonal. So, for example, a4, d5 is not possible for black because knight takes e5, and this is opening up that diagonal. So here, e takes d5 check, as an example, is going to be good for white. It's going to be very nice for white. So, given king h7 is not possible, to shield h6, or knight f8, again, bishop takes h6, is very dangerous in this scenario. This is just a fictional scenario. Say knight g5, then the f6 knight would drop off, and white's doing very well there. But say here, instead of knight takes g5, queen b8, white does get a strong attack with this knight h5 threatening queen g7. And this is reminding me of my many bullet games that I've won like this, with this kind of crude attack to try and win the game as quickly as possible. So quite amusing stuff. So d5, it looks as though this is a classical punishment, surely. This is not going to work. Bishop takes h6, d takes e4, knight takes e4, knight takes, rook takes e4. The trouble with classical chess, you end up sometimes seeing pretty dry games. So this Armageddon, I think the whole philosophy is to spice things up, introduce more the element of the chess blunder. And, without blunders, many people have argued that, chess would be a duller game without horrific blunders. So will there be one in this game? Bishop d5, kitchen sink style attack, rook g4, so not minding e4. e4 is played, so getting resources around the opponent's king. So that was a great philosophy of mine as a junior, point scoring, winning Lloyd's under 18. I had that as a major philosophy. Just get the bits near the opponent's king, hope for the best. Something often happens. Knight h4. We see e takes d3 here, taking off that bishop. On knight takes h4, as you'd expect, some magic does happen with rook takes g7 check, queen g5, and yeah, this is a major hack attack, which could end quite easily in checkmate. On bishop takes d4 here, a rescue attempt for the queen to bounce via d4 to protect g7. But here, queen takes h4. This is very nice for white as well, and that pawn's pinned, otherwise there's going to be some sort of disaster there. It looks, yeah, white's doing very well there. So we have e takes d3, and now Vishy plays knight f5. This is not technically the greatest move according to the engine overlords, overlording the soundness of our games, because knight takes g6 apparently is the way to go, and in this position with rook d7 apparently this could end up in a theoretical sense in a perpetual check scenario. So here, after an inaccuracy here though, rook e7, apparently white could end up slightly better with best play. White could end up slightly better. For example here, this position, white's got nice control over things here, nice pressure. Okay, so anyway, knight f5, and here actually Ding Liren did actually go disastrously wrong with his next move, it seems. He played bishop e6. Rook e2, apparently it's the way to go. This is a nifty move. Very annoying, because the annoying point is after queen takes d3, there's queen a6 protecting that rook, hitting the queen. So the queen's been nudged out of that diagonal, not supporting the bishop. And if white has to take here, then the attack has diminished. Black's got a big control over the position, material up. So rook e2 would appear to be the refutation, it seems. On queen g5, then d2 is nasty. For example, this is a little bit slow, bishop takes g7 after queen b8. Just taking out this escape square means rook e1 is pretty deadly. So for example, bishop f6, rook e1 is mating. So what does white do here? If instead of bishop f6, bishop e5, then this position, again, black ends up doing really well. This position, black's getting a big advantage, managing to control key dark squares, not getting mated that easily, it seems. So yeah, it's scary looking stuff though, all of this business, but apparently rook e2 does seem to work in with best play. So bishop e6, but this is what this makes this game kind of cute, sweet. I thought, this is not too complex. This is not like a 200 move engine game. This is not such a, sometimes you want a bit of a relaxing hack attack to play through. And I think this is delivering now, because guess what Vishy plays here, if I give you 5 seconds to pause the video. White play here. Okay. Bishop takes g7, yeah, leaving the knight hanging. Yeah, incredible. And you might think, hold on a sec, surely this is not working, because taking queen here, you might have visualized that the knight's actually guarding h8, so what could be the problem there? Well, this is taken, and queen h6 is played, so what's the problem? There's no queen h8 threat. The problem is there's a huge threat of bishop f6 in this position. Yep, that's actually the huge threat being faced here. Now you might think, hold on a sec, what about f6 here? Doesn't that give the king an escape route out of the position? What's going on here? Well, actually, it turns out here rook takes g6 is pretty strong. If the king tries to make a run for it, here is a very forcing sequence, just scooping up that bishop there. And right now, white's the exchange up, but the king's just too unsafe. And this is an example, a long forcing move example, where black giving back the exchange, and white ends up with the exchange up actually in a crushing position. This pawn on d3, just to demonstrate, could be mopped up as an example. So yeah, f6 doesn't seem to work out too well after rook takes g6. And here bishop takes g6, you might wonder, queen takes, is also pretty dangerous off the check here. Queen takes f6 will pick up e7 and for example checkmate. So yeah, f6 is a good try, but it doesn't seem to do the job of defending here in this position. Fun stuff. Rook e6 is trying to take that f6 square away. So as a simple example, bishop takes g4, there's bishop f6, and what can black do about this queen g7 checkmate? Fawn bishop, and I've got the fawn pawn, but this is kind of fawn bishop and fawn queen. They're around the king. Real fawn in the sides of the king. So here, rook e1 check, and then it's going to be checkmate. So yeah, it's an intriguing position after queen h6. Okay, so in the game, yeah, rook e6 was played, and guess what Vishy played here, which kind of finished the game. Sweet final move. White to play. Can you guess it? If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video. Okay, super sweet. Bishop h8. The knight is actually pinned still with that rook, so, and white's threatening queen g7, and there's no defense here. The queen is blocked by its own pawns from helping the defense along this rank. So a really sweet finish. Game ending there. As an example, rook e1 check. We can just take that off. Here, c takes, and we're still going to be checkmating pretty shortly. Okay, yeah, I just thought this was a neat little game from the Armageddon to show you a bit of entertainment. Okay, hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy this game video, then please click on the top left box, which should appear shortly, to become a member at chessmeld.net. You can also play other YouTubers or invite me for a game even. You can test yourself on the variations covered in this and other game videos from the improved menu puzzle books option, which has a link also to the annotated game. Comments, questions, donations, see the description. Like, share, subscribe with the notification bell. Really appreciate it. Thanks very much. Addendum puzzle book for this game. So this is at Chessmeld, the improved menu puzzle books. You'll find recent games we've covered in detail, relevant puzzle books for these games. So let's just do a few, just first 5 say. White to play and black gets mated. So I think this is a nice trick. You play knight takes to get a weakness for the last move, and you pounce into h5, and that g7 is just very difficult to defend. That's a fun one. Fun games make fun puzzles, I think. Now this, okay, we can take on g7. I think bring in the queen to g5 here. And this is going to be crushing, I believe. Pardon me. I'm a bunny. Okay. It's checkmate like this. I played that too quickly. So, note, sit on your hands sometimes to find a stronger move. Is very good advice, old school advice. Okay, you might get sore hands sometimes. Okay, that's the only problem. So, here, white play for a clear advantage here. Okay, now g7 is defended, but I think here we take that off. Black's rescuing the g7 situation. So now here we can take here, pinning that pawn, and it's really dangerous for black. White play here. Okay, it looks as though rook takes g7 check. Springs to mind as the move for queen g5. Because this barricade for the center means, the king doesn't seem totally exposed just yet. And here we can play that classic, surely. The classic tactic, rook h7. Okay, black to play for a clear advantage here. So this was the missed refutation. So this sort of stuff happens in Armageddon. In fact, there's worse blunders to cover potentially, as well, just for entertainment. So here, this, because there's the sneaky queen a6, and black ends up dissipating most of white's attack in this variation. That would have been very cruel. So that would have been the refutation, which wasn't played out. Thankfully. In a way, I like Vishy Anand to win sometimes, the old tiger from Madras. So, okay, hope you enjoyed that. Thanks very much.